What is going on, everybody? It is Tuesday, September 16th. Welcome into this week's episode of The Walkthrough. I'm your host, Joe Machika. This episode is presented, as always, by Tilly's Warehouse. Again, check out Tilly's Warehouse, located at 2000B Green Street, right in the heart of 5 Points for all of your beverage needs. Now, kind of getting into the thick of it, South Carolina suffering a momentum-killing loss against Vandy this weekend at Williams Brice. I brought in Elijah Campbell to break it all down, but the three big things for tonight: Gamecocks fall flat. What the heck went wrong on Saturday night? Recap all that, fix the sputtering engine. What can the offense do to jumpstart some life and also take some momentum into Missouri? Plus, how did the defense let Vandy slip away? All that, plus the pulse of the fan base coming at you live. This is your Tuesday night walkthrough. Welcome in. Stay locked in.
Guess you wonder where I've been. I searched to.
Yes, indeed. It is this week's episode of The Walkthrough presented by Tilly's Warehouse. I've got a really, really good guest for you this week, none other than my friend Elijah Campbell. So have a listen to our conversation. All righty, welcome back into this week's episode of The Walkthrough. I am now joined by my guest, 2025 Sportscaster of the Year for radio, named by the South Carolina Broadcasters Association. Just moved into his new spot as co-host of The Early Game with Preston Thorne over on 107.5 The Game. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Elijah Campbell. Elijah, how are we doing today?
Fantastic. That's the best intro I've ever gotten from anybody. That
Yeah.
was good. You got the title, the award in there, and everything. That's what I'm talking about. I'm amped. I'm fired up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have to give you a big intro again because we need it this week. We need some positivity after this week. As you can read the headline, South Carolina falls flat against Vandy. Not the best evening in Williams Brice Stadium. Elijah, you were there, and then you were also present for, Shane Beamer's new press conference this week, today, actually. Give me your initial reactions, from the loss, from the atmosphere, and then also, I guess, from Shane today as they try to, recap this loss.
Yeah, I mean, talk about the atmosphere. It was like quintessential Williams Brice Stadium going into that game. It was loud. Marcus Lattimore comes out of the cockaboose. The place is on fire. There was a lot of anticipation for this game, albeit a lot of nervous anticipation because we've seen this offense struggle to engineer drives, and we were a week removed from a South Carolina State game where you struggled to score in the first half against an FCS opponent. Ultimately, you scored only 17 points, which has been the maximum they've scored under Mike Shula's play calling tutelage so far, dating back to the Citrus Bowl against Illinois in the last day of the calendar year in 24. And the game starts, and Vanderbilt does what they do. You knew you weren't going to shut out Vanderbilt. They had a really good first drive, but then you respond with a first drive that honestly mirrored what you saw against Virginia Tech, right? The execution was crisp. You had some first down throws. You got the tight ends involved. You ran the ball really well. And then that culminates in a touchdown. So it's like, okay, game on, right? Well, then the defenses settle in, which I think we all expected to happen a little bit. You also weren't going to fix any of the offensive issues overnight, but you were hoping that you're still able to score enough to be able to win that game. And then Vandy puts together a quintessential Vanderbilt Commodore drive where they milk almost 6 minutes off the clock and they run all these plays and they get it down to the 2-minute timeout. And now you're having to engineer your own drive to be able to score, and which felt possible because the drive before that, you got down to the red zone, to the 12-yard line of Vanderbilt before throwing an interception, a play that I kind of just chalk up to Vanderbilt duping you on defense, right?
Yeah.
Like just getting straight up duped because they disguised their coverage. A defensive lineman drops back into coverage, which is not something you see a ton of, and picks off a pass and a bad read, bad play. But you showed you could move the ball, right? So when they got the ball back, I don't think anybody was thinking, oh, here we go again. It's, hey, you got 2 minutes, try to get you a field goal, cut into this lead if you can, or score a touchdown and tie it going into halftime. And then you get the ball to start the second half. Everything still feels on the table. And then Trovon Ball has his one play. And it's a guy who I thought leading up to that was playing really well.
Right.
And Trevon Ball has truly looked to have improved.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then the play happens. He ends up helping over on the nose guard, who's being blocked by 3 different South Carolina players. Langston Patterson gets a free run at Lenora Sellers. He hits him, helmet-to-helmet contact. Lenoris is concussed. He's out for the game, and the energy in the building shifts completely, right? It gets quiet. The energy is completely different. And I think everybody could realize, especially once you saw the replay and you saw where he got hit, that it was a concussion, right?
Yeah.
And if he looked wobbly getting off the field, you knew you were not going to get him back. You might have held out hope that he was coming back, but you knew he wasn't coming back. And Luke Jody is inserted into the game. And then we have the controversy, which I thought, Shane rightfully mad that they waited to blow the play dead after it was snapped to review the play, which you had 2.5 minutes of real time while Lenoris is on the ground to say, hey, we might want to look at this, because they showed it on the replay on the broadcast. When I went back and watched it, I noticed they showed it on the broadcast 3 or 4 times.
Right.
All it should take is one viewing of it to say, you know what, let's look at this closer. And he didn't. A touchdown basically gets wiped off the board because Nick Harbour had nothing but green grass ahead of him, and that would have been an explosive play. And that stalls you out a little bit. And then offensively, you get into some small rhythms, but you never add it all back up. And the second half was just a concoction of the worst things happening, right? If we continue the middle 8, where the last 4 minutes of the second quarter, you get outscored 7-0, the injury happens. First 4 minutes of the third quarter, you go 3 and out. And then Vanderbilt doesn't have to milk a lot of clock off because they hit an explosive play in the run game to go up 21-7. And then offensively, you get past the 50 a couple times. You turn the ball over a few times. You go for it on 4th down, and you get stuffed a few times, or you throw an incomplete pass. And then at that point, all hope to win that game felt lost, and it was more of just a celebration ceremony for the last quarter and a half that game of Vanderbilt breaking a streak of 16 consecutive years of not beating South Carolina.
Right.
And after the game, it was as, defeated as I think, or shell-shocked as, some of the players and Coach Beamer sounded in a long time after a loss. It sounded kind of like what it was with the Ole Miss game last year. That's kind of what it felt like spiritually, or Florida in 2023.
Right.
It's one of those games where, you got hit in the mouth, but there were a lot of self-inflicted wounds that you put on yourself. And you could chalk up a lot to Lenoris getting hurt. I don't want to discount that. But at the same time, too, if this player plays in the second half, is the game different? Yes, the game is different. Yeah. Are you winning it? I don't know. Yeah. I really don't, because Vanderbilt just flat out executed better than you did. And I thought Clark Lee won the coaching battle. Vanderbilt seemed more prepared for anything that could happen in that game than Carolina did. It was in all 3 phases. You didn't get the job done. And when it came to coaching as well, I think it was just one of those games that you just didn't get the job done. You were not ready for what ended up happening in this game.
Yeah, most definitely. Elijah, I think, when Lenoris goes out, right, that's the, worst case scenario. No one talks about it. No one really likes to think about it around here, but that was, obviously a big turning point in this game. And it came from, what looked like at least, a communication issue on the offensive line, right?
Yeah.
And it starts with the quarterback. We've been saying this kind of going into this week that, Lenoris needs to help figure out the offensive line communication. He needs to be the one to go into those huddles and be like, all right, this is how it is. The quarterback is the one controlling all of that at the line of scrimmage. So, again, it's not necessarily his fault that the block went missed per se, but, again, it was one of the issues that you had to check the box going into this week. And, again, it led to, a costly injury, and we'll see if he's going to play this week. I doubt it. I mean, my experience with concussions, no bueno. I wouldn't expect him to make the trip. I mean, he's got to fly. And then also, as I was listening to Beamer's press conference again today, he didn't sound hopeful of it because there is the policy within the team of practicing on Tuesday and Wednesday. And I've never seen a guy practice on Tuesday and Wednesday following a concussion.
Yeah, 72 hours after a diagnosed concussion, you're not practicing. And that's why I think, given what Shane said in the presser today, and if you want to use, Las Vegas as kind of like a scope or a barometer as to what an availability of a key player is, sometimes a line is what it is because they know something, right? And there's a reason it went from Missouri -3.5 to Missouri -13.5.
Yeah.
Because they believe Lenore Sellers is worth 10 points. I completely agree. A point spread to 10 points is a lot.
Yeah.
And Lenore Sellers is definitely worth that. And I think it's because they know once he was officially diagnosed with a concussion and that report came out, that was it. At that point, I came to a conclusion. I'm not going to expect him to be able to play. So it's in asked today. I think it was Chaz Frazier from ABC Columbia asked, if Lenoris isn't cleared to play, is it Luke Doty? And it was an emphatic before Chaz even finished the question. Yes, it's going to be Luke Doty. And a lot of that is based off of what they see in practice, because I think that if we had to put a title on today's press conference, it was practice matters, right?
Yeah.
And that is the reason that they are rolling with Luke Doty, is because of what they see out of him in practice. And they truly believe that he's giving them the best chance to win. So on Saturday, without ever seeing an injury or an availability report from the SEC and from this team, expect Luke Doty to be the one rolled out there and playing quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. As Lenore's kind of went out and kind of, I guess, as we're getting a little offensive focus here, this offense looked like a sputtering engine, right? You have to shift to Doty, and granted, again, that's without Lenore's, but even with him in past that scripted drive, this offense was not itself, or it was not its script itself. They weren't playing with momentum, and there were a couple things, that fell through the cracks, if you will. But to me, Elijah, this offense, seems like a sputtering engine, even with Lenoris in it. Without Lenoris, and you have Luke Doty in it, how can you fix this? How can you find some life when you don't have your most dynamic playmaker?
Yeah, in terms of fixing it, I don't know if you can, but you can patchwork it, right? Look, at quarterback aside, what are the things that we figured just off of 3 games this team does really well? Nick Harbor has developed as a route runner. He's really good at beating zone defenses. The one thing I was really impressed with Nick in the Vanderbilt game was when you had those 2 really long drives, Nick Harbor was involved. And Nick Harbor torched a Vanderbilt zone defense. He found the soft spot, he found the gaps, and he got himself open. He was really good at that. Lenoris delivered him the ball, and then the offense is starting to move up and down the field. I think you have to find different ways to get Nick the ball. Reverses, quick slant passes. I mean, get a jet sweeps. I don't know. Anything as creative as humanly possible, is to ensure that number 8 is touching the ball 7, 8, 9, 10 times in this game, right? And make sure that Missouri has to focus a lot on him and find ways to give guys like Mazio Bennett the ball in space, right? I think a short passing game is going to benefit them a lot.
Yeah. And
Luke Doty did show that, in the second half, that he was able to make some throws like down the field a little bit. He threw for 133 passing yards in the second half.
Right.
And they got into some rhythms. I think what really killed them whenever he was on offense was they just turned the ball over. He did throw the interception on the last drive, which is really the only fitting way to end that game. Isaiah Augusta fumbled. Don't expect to see him playing as much, just based off what we know of this coaching staff and how fumbles are normally handled. You can't fumble. You got to be better at picking up blitzes, because, again, the fumble that Luke had was an all-out blitz, right? They send a lot of guys. They crowd the line of scrimmage. They send a corner coming off the edge. He gets untouched. Luke gets drilled and then fumbles the ball. Really, the big thing in this game is maximize your drives and don't give Missouri the ball deep in your own territory, because the way they run it, they're going to convert. So if you can be able to just get the ball out in space, get creative with how you put the ball in your playmaker's hands, and then just run the ball. I mean, early in the game, I don't think they're going to put a ton in Luke's hands. I think they're going to see if they can run phase on up and down the field, because that was a bright spot, right? Carried the ball 15 times, and he had 75 yards. It's a really good average, right? You can live with that. Meaning, if you give him 20 times in that game, he's reaching north of the 100-yard mark.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see a lot of Rasul Faison and a real concerned effort to get Nick Harbor the ball, because, quite frankly, those are the 2 guys on offense that are your best playmakers so far.
Yeah, most definitely. Elijah, there's been a lot of talk about Mike Shula and, his, I guess, performance, if you will, and how bad this offense looked. Do you credit the offensive failures more so to play calling or poor execution here?
I think maybe more poor execution and lack of consistency. One thing I asked Shane today is, offensively, when you have struggles like you do, is it more of issue of just getting back to the drawing board schematically and saying, okay, we don't do this, so what's another way we can get the offense involved, or is it an execution thing? And he said, well, the schematics change every week, but I want to see more consistency. And I think that's a big thing too, because you've seen the flashes. It's not like they can't do it, right? I'm old enough to remember the first drive of the season against Virginia Tech. I'm old enough to remember them busting Virginia Tech over the top with a 64-yard touchdown pass to Nick Harbor to put the game on ice. Right. I'm old enough to remember that first drive on Saturday night where you marched up and down the field and you got your receivers the ball in space, you spread the field out, and you're able to operate really well. Those drives showed really good play calling. I thought those were really well done. Like the first play of the game against Vanderbilt, a play action bootleg, dog. And Jordan Dingle was as open as he was. Right. That's how you want to do it. Like, and sometimes if you don't execute, it's going to make a play call look worse than what it is.
Right.
I don't want to completely absolve Mike Shula of blame because ultimately he is the coordinator of the offense, right? Consistency issues are things he has to account for. If you're not consistent in certain areas, then you have to lean to wherever your highest consistency, most reliable plays and your most reliable players are. Yeah. So definitely not absolved of any blame, but I think execution is the biggest thing. And you're playing whack-a-mole with your problems too, right? One game you can't run the ball very well. One game, the offensive line miscommunicates too much and that causes issues. One game, it's you're turning the ball over 4 times. Like they did Saturday night against Vanderbilt. You turn the ball over 4 times against anyone in the SEC. I don't care if you're playing Vanderbilt, Kentucky, Mississippi State, don't matter. Arkansas, don't matter. You turn the ball over that many times, you're going to lose the football game, barring divine intervention, right? Yeah. So turnovers are an execution thing. I think it's a lot of execution, and based off of what Shane said today, finding consistency in just how you operate as an offense.
Yeah, most definitely. I loved your analogy, whack-a-mole with your problems, and it seems like, it's exactly what this offense is doing, right? The communication is one thing, and, I think kind of looping this back in with Lenoris too, I think a week off could kind of, do him some good, right? Because I think going into the season with all the hype and everything, like that's essentially what he's doing, trying to patch all the holes at once. And it's leaking, right? So I think, a week off for Lenoris would do him some good because, again, he gets to have some perspective, right? Watching from the sidelines, kind of absorbing it all in. And granted, you don't want to take in a whole too lot when you have a concussion, but again, I think it'll give him some perspective and maybe some tips on how to better manage it, right? Because, it can be hard when you're running with all that hype behind you and, all of these expectations to be, the next guy and, the potential Heisman favorite. And this early on in the year, it's a lot to carry. So I think the week off could do him some good. And then also, the whole, Doty situation, Elijah, do you think they could go to Air Nolan or Cutter Wood at any point, in Missouri if Doty's struggling?
I think if you go down 21-0 and the offense is going 3 and out consistently, I think you kind of have to, right? You have to see what you have right there. You got to give your offense some type of jolt. And that's, if I'm a Gamecock fan, my biggest concern for this Missouri game is that you're going 3 and out. What you want to at least see, because the offense isn't going to put up 40 points. If they do, it's a remarkable storyline. But it's not going to be the same without Lenoris Sellers. If it is true that he's not playing, we're kind of operating under that assumption. But the one thing you can't afford to do is go 3 and out. Because as good as Missouri runs the ball, they're not going to go 3 and out. You can still stop them and maybe keep them off the scoreboard a few drives, but you're not going to keep them from moving the chains a couple times of possession, because that's just how good of a running team Missouri is. And that's not even accounting for the receivers that they have, right? Like, it's a loaded receiving group. They lost Luther Bird and Theo Weiss, and guess what? They add Kevin Coleman, who was a 900-yard receiver at Mississippi State last year. They have guys like Daniel Blood and Josh Manning and Marquez Johnson, who has world-class type speed out on the perimeter too. They just have weapons everywhere. They're going to move the ball. If the defense keep them out of the end zone, that at least gives you some margin for error. But the one thing you just cannot do is continuously go 3 and out. And if we start the game being a quarter and a half in and you're down a couple scores and your offense keeps going 3 and out, it's worth trying something else, right? Unless, again, because they told us today, practice matters. And if Air Nolan and Cutter Woods didn't play well in practice and they gave you no indication that they can come in this game and help you win and give you a chance to win, then they're not going to do it. I think that's what it would really say, about them, is that they're not ready for this type of play yet.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be interesting to see, how Mike Shula handles it all. I agree with your points on, Faison getting involved, and then also just trying to get the ball to Harbor, right? I think we've seen it in the South Carolina offense before, albeit not Mike Shula, but we've seen the Debo Samuel type. And, granted, Nick Harbor's a little bit bigger, a little bit lengthier, and can go down the field and go get some balls. But, it's I would like to see it simplified. I'm with you, Elijah. I think you got to keep it simple, stupid on the road, and you kind of have to almost out Missouri in this game, especially when you're, without Lenore Sellers. But Elijah, on the other side of the football, there is a little bit more optimism. I think this, all things considered, minus all of the missed tackles, and this defense played decently well if you factor out a lot of the things that you can fix week in and week out. I think this was a lot of effort kind of things for this defense.
Yeah, and finishing plays too.
Right.
Like the tricky part about Vanderbilt's offense, I've always said, is how good they are at putting your defenders in conflict, right? Because they run that triple option to where if Diego Pavia is rolling out to his left or to his right, he's got an option to pitch it. If he gets to the line of scrimmage and he sees, Eli Stowers slip out, he's got that option to throw the ball. There's a variety of things they can do, and they try to focus in on one or two players in their defense and make them make a decision and then make their play based on that decision. And sometimes they execute it so well that there's nothing you can do. And I think that's the one thing Vanderbilt's better at this year than last year, is executing that, right? Tim Beck is one of the best offensive coordinators in football. I think what he's got them doing is so tailor-made to their strengths. It's so good at making a defensive coordinator's life job hell. I'm sure if you ask Clayton White about it today, that the preparation for Vanderbilt is one of the hardest preps you have to do because of the style of offense they run. You got to take the Vanderbilt name off of it for a second. Just look at what they do on offense, and you'll see that it's a lot of tricky stuff. You have to be really disciplined with your eyes, and when you get them in the backfield, you have to make the tackle. There's one play in the game that I think really highlights the story for Carolina defensively. About 6.5 minutes to go in the second quarter. It's one of those triple option plays where Dylan Stewart does a fantastic job of setting the edge to where Pavia can't go left towards the sideline. His option to pitch and throw had been taken away, and his only option is to just cut upfield. That's the only option. And Dylan Stewart has him, but he doesn't finish the tackle. Sean Murphy comes in to help, doesn't finish the tackle. DQ Smith comes in to help, doesn't finish the tackle, and it's on third down. And I think it was a 3rd and 6. And a 3rd and 6 becomes a 1st and 10. Because despite you playing that play as perfectly as you can, against an offense that is going to get you sometimes, right? Like, you are going to lose reps to that offense. But when you get a chance on third down to get your defense off the field, and all you got to do is make the tackle, you did the hard part. Your eyes were disciplined. You didn't get fooled. You didn't get bamboozled by what it is they do. You did the hard part. Now you just got to take the guy to the ground. And they didn't do that, and that can be deflating. That's how Vanderbilt was able to go on a 5-minute scoring drive. They end up scoring on that drive, and they converted a lot of third downs. That's how they milk off 5+ minutes of clock per drive and are able to put points on the board and immediately put your offense in a position to have to make up for that. And I think that was ultimately when you didn't have the offense clicking the way you need it to, and you're turning the ball over the way you were, it made what ended up being a 21-7 game at one point feel insurmountable. Where normally a 21-7 game in the second half of a football game early in the third quarter isn't insurmountable. It felt like, though, just because you had a hard time getting off the field on third down. You play well on first and second down, and they get away with it on third. And that is where anybody on that defense would tell you is what got them on Saturday night.
Yeah, most definitely, Elijah. I think it. This defense, they got gashed, right? 332 or 323 yards. Total from Vandy. Again, as you're making the point there, they were really disciplined on a lot of different plays, right? Their eye discipline was all right. But the one play where Pavia escapes, Stewart, Brian Thomas Jr. and you said Sean Murphy. On the third down, sums it up perfectly. Again, it's just a discipline thing, but how this defense has played these first 2 weeks, or the first 2 weeks, and even this week too, I don't feel like it's a complete letdown from your defense. Again, I think it was just a couple little things that you let slip, but out of anything for this football team, this defense is still, going for them. I think just one bad week, a frustrating week doesn't necessarily offset anything or raise as many concerns as you have, at least on the offensive side of the football.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think you've seen enough from that defense to know that, like, you've seen the speed. You've seen what they do on run defense. I mean, even despite some of the failures in the second half where the breakdowns kind of happened, you still saw Monkel Goodwine and Gabriel Brownlow-Dendy have really good games. They're still really tough on the interior. And no matter who you're playing, you're going if whoever their opponent is will have a hard time running the ball in South Carolina. They will have a hard time protecting their quarterback, right? The reason Vanderbilt doesn't have a ton of sacks is because, to their credit, they do a good job of getting Pavia on the run and moving the pocket. Harder to hit a moving target. And you saw a couple times, you saw one time specifically where Brian Thomas Jr. got called for what I think was a ridiculous roughing the passer call. That is a byproduct of having to chase him a little bit, right? Unfortunately, it's not going to get any easier with Missouri because Bo Prabula is incredibly elusive, but they don't move the pocket the same way Vanderbilt designs to move their pocket at times, right? Sometimes it is a little bit more of a drop back passing, especially with what we saw Missouri do with Brady Cook as the quarterback the last few years. But I think you have the talent there. I think you still like what you have. The defensive backs have to be better, but you still like the talent you have in that room. You love the talent you have with the linebacking room. I think the defense will still be good. I think the one thing, though, is just that you got to be better than good, better than what you are against this Missouri team, because Missouri is just slashing everybody's defense that they've played so far. Granted, one of those games against Central Arkansas, one of them's against Louisiana, the other's against Kansas. Like, those are three opponents that aren't going to be confused with, the 2002 Bucks, right? Like, they'll never get confused with that team. But at the same time, I don't care if you're playing Louisiana Tech, McNeese State, Nichols State. You run for almost 500 yards in a game, your running offense is pretty damn good. So it's going to be a really big challenge. You can hold Missouri to 24 points and still play a good game defensively.
Yeah, most definitely. Elijah, again, getting into previewing Missouri a little bit there. This is going to be a really tough matchup, like you said. Really, really talented at running the football. They don't necessarily have like a go-to back like they did with the likes of Tyler Beatty, where they could just give it to him and be like, all right, run the zone and we're going to go for about 200 yards on the ground. Like we're used to. But again, Bo Pribula, talented quarterback out of Penn State, again, transferred before, the playoff and that whole thing and, whatnot. But so Eli Drinkwitz is slowly becoming the next, Steve Spurrier, just, I guess, or people have said at least, because he's got the cheeky team and, they're up there in Missouri and, they kind of just float around 25, 24, and then they slowly creep their way up into the rankings until you're like, oh, wait, they're actually really good and playing really good football. This is going to be a tough test for the South Carolina team that's reeling off the heels of, this Vanderbilt loss. You got to go a long ways to get to the other Columbia. Elijah, how and what can you do to, slow Missouri down and if you're not going to win this one, at the very least, make it look somewhat pretty?
I think it's all going to begin and end with stopping that running attack.
Right.
And we saw it last year too. If we are comparing this year's Missouri running back room and quarterback ability to run and compare it to last year's running back room and quarterback ability to run, it's a significant upgrade this year. Brady Cook was a good quarterback in the pocket. No one's going to confuse him with being Michael Vick. The running game was really good. Marcus Carroll, solid running back. The Noel kid was a solid running back. But no one's going to confuse that running game, with being, insert great rushing attack here, right? Like, no, neither of those guys are like Marshall Faulk. But this year, Bo Prabula is a legit threat to run the ball. There's a play in the Central Arkansas game he makes, the first game of the year, where he spins out of tackles and he makes magic happen when nothing else is available. Like, Prabula's got that opportunity or that ability. And at Penn State, the snaps he got were what I call the Tebow snaps, the freshman year Tebow snaps. When he was a freshman at Florida, Chris Leak would get pulled on a 3rd and short or a 4th and short, and they would just give the ball to Tim Tebow and have him run for a first down. Prabula did a lot of that at Penn State. Now he's got the keys to the entire offense, but he's got that in his arsenal. Ahmad Hardy's a better running back than the best running back they've had since, Cody Schrader, which is a couple of years ago. But He's on pace now to have a season just as good as Cody Schrader was in 2023. Let's look at the last game against Louisiana. 22 carries, 250 yards, 3 touchdowns. And there's a guy, too. This is only his second year playing college football. What did he do his first year? He was at Louisiana Monroe, where he ran for over 1,500 yards after contact, right?
Okay.
Like he's one of those guys, right? Like it doesn't matter if the offensive line is replacement level in the SEC. He's going to get his. You can't let him just go for an astronomical amount of yards where he's picking up 11 yards a carry or even like 7 or 8, right? You got to limit him a little bit. And then Marquise Davis ran for $113 too. Jamal Roberts is a solid running back who ran for 5.8 yards a carry against Louisiana. They had 3 running backs pick up at least 5 yards a carry in that win against Louisiana.
Yeah.
And they did it against Kansas too. Like they're tough physical runners, and they're going to run those outside zones or those stretch plays. And last year, they have to really look at the tape what happened last year, where things went wrong, because Missouri just ran outside zone, stretch plays, up and down the field on a really good Carolina defense.
Right.
That was a really good Carolina defense. That Missouri running game, I don't think is as good as it is this year. And you're going to have to figure out how to play against that. That's going to be the hard part. But if you can slow that running game down and see what Bo Pribula's got as a passer, if you force him to have to drop back 25 to 30 times, maybe as a first-year starter making his, first career game in the SEC, can make some mistakes because South Carolina's defense significantly better than Louisiana's. I think they're significantly better than Kansas's, and I guarantee you they're significantly better than Central Arkansas. If you can bait Bo Pribula into making mistakes in the pass game and make them have to do it because they get into 3rd and longs, then maybe you give yourself a puncher's chance to be able to end up winning this game on the road.
Yeah, most definitely, Elijah. I think it goes without saying, stopping the run is the MO. This defense or this front 7 at the very least is due for a game like that. And, who knows, maybe some good old fashioned just stop the run SEC football. Keep your keys very simple, because that's how the zone run is. It's like do your job, fit the gap, and then stop the run. Maybe that's exactly what this defense needs. And, I think it's certainly a winnable game on the road, even with as many questions as you have on offense. But again, from a South Carolina perspective, obviously you said Luke Doty obviously can't go 3 and out a lot in the first half if you want to find success. But Elijah, for you, what does success in a win look like for South Carolina in Como with Luke Doty at the helm?
It's making it a low-scoring game. It's taking Missouri, what they do and what they've been doing with their offense, this high-flying attack, and dragging it to hell with you, right? I mean, take a hold and drag it into the mud. Like they want to play, in the fancy ballroom in the nice, freshly cleaned building. You want to drag them outside and throw them in that mud pile with you and make it a really close game and have your defense lead you to a win, right? I mean, look, even in the last 4 games with Lenore Sellers at quarterback and Mike Shuley as your offensive coordinator, the most points he scored in a game is 17. With Luke Doty as your backup quarterback, it's not going to magically get better overnight. It might not magically get better over the week. But can you manage to get 14 to 17 points in this game? If you can, and you're able to dominate on the defensive line and you stop their running game, and let's just say you win the turnover battle this time, you force Bo Pribula into some stupid mistakes, because at the end of the day, he's a first-year starter. This is his first career start in the SEC. If maybe you can dupe him by disguising blitzes, disguising coverages, make him throw into a place that he thinks is a pass that's there, but it's not, and your secondary has a really good game, and you can even give your offense some room to breathe. Like, let's just say, you pick him off first drive of the game 20 on their own 20, and you have the ball on their 20. Offense doesn't have to make an 80-yard drive. They only got to go 20 yards, or maybe they'll have to go 10 to make it a comfortable field goal, right? And then you can stack points up like that. If your defense and your special teams can create shorter fields for your offense, and you're able to stop what they do in the running game, you have then given yourself a chance to win the game. Still might not be good enough because this is a really good Missouri team, but it gives you a chance on the road. And with a backup quarterback in the SEC, that's all you can ask.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And Elijah, I wouldn't put it past Clayton White either. I think, when you do, as you mentioned, you have a first year starter, you can get creative with some of those blitzes. And, maybe Clayton White's looking at this matchup as, hey, maybe this is the time to, have my defense make a statement, and this defense, certainly, I'm sure the front seven is loving the fact, if we get creative and do our job, we can let the secondary eat behind us. And that's the best feeling when you make a big play and the DBs are, running up to the D line and celebrating with them. That's when you get those big group sellies like you see. But yeah, Elijah, certainly a tough test. Appreciate you joining me on this week's episode of the Walkthrough. As I always do, before people get out of here, I want you to plug just everything, what's going on in your world and everything that's going on for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, just follow the Takery at @E_Campbell3 on Twitter. That's where I'm usually vomiting out my football takes and thoughts as frequently as possible. And listen to us every morning from 6 to 9 a.m. on the early game on 107.5 The Game on your FM dial there. And a nice little thing to listen to on your commute to work or to school, wherever it is that you're heading. Preston and I love breaking this thing down even at a granular level, and we'll continue to do so. And that's usually where our bread is buttered, is on the show right there. Follow our YouTube page at the Game TV, at the Game Radio TV, or 107.5 The Game's YouTube page. And usually after every single game, I'm going not live. I record a video, my reaction video. We put it up on the YouTube page and do all of that afterwards. So you get some fresh reaction along with what we're thinking in real time whenever we're posting on Twitter. So that's the best place to follow me.
Yeah, absolutely. That is Elijah Campbell, the man, the myth, the legend. Also, one heck of a softball pitcher, was carrying our team from the bump this whole spring. So appreciate your services on the bump, sir, and thank you for joining me.
Yeah, doing what I can on the bump whenever I'm not tearing my hamstring rounding second. Once we got that out of the way and I got back, rusted off the cobwebs, and we were good to go. But I try to fancy myself an ace on a slow pitch softball mound.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you ever get the chance to hit in front of him in one of these said leagues, be ready to run. The guy hits a nuke, and I will take my bloop single, get on first, and be like, all right, Elijah, that was a lot. I sprinted down to first, whatever, and then boom, hitting into the fence, going from first home really quickly. But yeah, you're the man, Elijah. Appreciate you joining me, and back to your regularly scheduled walkthrough programming. Yeah, absolutely. That is my guy, Elijah Campbell, with 107.5 The Game. Now switching it up to a segment tried out last week. Went really well. Checking in with my guys, the pulse of the fan base, the fan panel, the men, the myth, the legend, Mr. Gamecock retweeter and Mr. Morgan Mobo. Guys, obviously not a great win or not a great loss at home, at Williams Brice Stadium to Vanderbilt. But guys, there's not a whole lot of positives to take from this, but what are your initial takes from this one?
Hey, Joe, good evening. I don't know how you put me and Morgan on here after Elijah, but we'll give it a shot, man.
Right.
I tell you, my initial thoughts are I'm glad we're doing this today and not Sunday. Saturday night and Sunday, some feelings were different. I've kind of sat on it, looked at a little bit of tape, not much. Listen to Beamer. Not all is doom and gloom. Should we have looked the way we looked? Absolutely not. Do we look like awful as soon as Sellers got hurt? Yes, et cetera, et cetera. But I just keep going back to last year when we were sitting at 3-3 and we were all just kind of looking at the schedule going, what are we going to do? Then all of a sudden 6 wins we rattled off and everything changed. I think if you dig into the tape, you're not going to be screaming for an offensive coordinator.
Right.
I'm not screaming for an offensive coordinator. I think that's the coward way out, to be frank. I really do. I think it's like, okay, we had a bad game. What game was it last year where everybody wanted Clayton White? No, Florida game 2 years ago. Yeah. Everybody wanted Clayton White gone. And can you? Yeah. And that's a different story, maybe there, right? But with Clayton, I think he proved. Right, give him more time, give him some players. Look what he's done. I think we've given up before Vanderbilt 18 points a game in the past year and a half or something, right? So so again, not all doom and gloom. I think we have a chance this weekend. Obviously it's big if Lenore's plays. I think our games with Missouri are always tight, no matter where they are, no matter what their records are. So ultimately, my feelings are this. I'm not blaming the offensive coordinator. I'm looking at the fact that if the whistle doesn't get blown 3 seconds into the play, Nick Harper's down the sideline. It's 14-14. There's 2 minutes left in the half, and we get to the locker room and we figure out the second half. You get that penalty. You end up punting on that drive. You come out in the second half, look awful. They go up 21-7, and really that's lights out after that. You can tell the energy's gone. But so again, I don't think they whipped us for
Right.
60 minutes. I think they whipped us for maybe 30 minutes, but we could have done something a little bit different. I think coming out of the half on offense, and that's not me saying that I don't think Luke Doty needs to be playing.
We'll get to that too. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll wrap up here. We've got
Oh,
playmakers. They need to see the field.
Momo, how we doing?
Doing good, man. How about you?
Doing well, doing well.
Yeah, man. Going back to the game, first off, just gonna give props to Vandy, man. They got a solid squad. Definitely not your, like you said, not your brothers Vanderbilt. You know, that's a very solid squad. They got great quarterback, but yeah, we just another underwhelming performance once again, and we're kind of not at a place we expected to be preseason. You know, this is the lighter half of the schedule. We thought we'd, I think a lot of us were hoping we would cruise through these first five. But now we're kind of in a prove it stage. Backs against the wall. We have to just come out firing against Missouri. And I think this is when Beamer's teams play the best, when their backs are against the wall and they lay an egg the previous week. I think we'll come out hotter this week, and hopefully we can have a competitive game with Luke at the helm.
Yeah, most definitely, guys. Obviously getting to the 16 situation, it was a missed block from Trevon Baugh, who, was relatively good all night. Just happened to be, one missed block, and leads to, a free run at 16 in the backfield, which results again in that helmet to helmet hit. And again, 16, being knocked out of this game and probably out of next week, in Missouri as well. But guys, obviously you were missing him in that second half. You saw Luke Doty come in and try to, bring the game back, but you certainly are missing 16. And, I don't think there can be any good from it, obviously, because you're missing him. But I do think it is a good chance for him to kind of catch his breath and reset with all, or after all of the hype that he had coming into this year.
Yeah, personally, I thought Luke came in and did what he had to do. I've seen a lot of unwarranted hate. I don't know what the alternative was. If you want to throw a true freshman in there or air, I'm not really sure if he's quite ready yet. But I mean, Luke's a veteran guy. That's definitely the guy that you roll with. But yeah, man, you could tell the energy left the stadium. I was there, and you can almost hear a pin drop when Lenore's down. Like, is he gonna get up? Is he okay? But yeah, man, Luke did what he had to do. He wasn't perfect, but he threw some nice balls, man, and I feel comfortable with him in there.
Yeah, maybe I'm naive, but I'm not ready to say that 16 is not going yet this
Right.
weekend. You know, concussions are funny, or concussion protocols, etc. But that's just based on your question. That's just based on him not playing.
Yeah.
I'm with Morgan here. I don't think Doty looked bad. I think he controlled the offense. I mean, a couple of passes here and there. Um, Everybody wants the shiny new thing,
Right.
right? Everybody wants the new transfer that came in, or the new highly touted freshman from the upstate, etc. By this moment, if you don't trust Shane Beamer, I'd question your fandom a little bit. This guy has proven time and time again that he knows what he's doing and who can play, who's ready. And I think this is a matter of Cutter simply doesn't know the offense yet. And that's understandable, right? What is he, 18, 17, 18 years old? And I think Aaron Nolan had a long way to go before he stepped on campus, both personal and professional. And I think he's just not quite there yet either. Maybe it's a playbook thing with him as well. So your coach puts you in the best situation to win. Here's my backlash on Shane Beamer.
Mhm.
Why is it year 5 and Luke Doty's the best thing we have at QB2? That's where the issue is. Not that he put Luke Doty in the game, but why is he the QB? Why is he sitting there? Why didn't we go get somebody that we knew? If we knew Aaron Nolan had issue A or B on or off the field, whatever it is, what are we paying him? Why did we bring him in? Like, why didn't we go get somebody that we know could step into that offense if Lenore's goes down at halftime? So that's my only backlash there. And again, I don't know the ins and outs of it, but it is what it is, man. I'm comfortable with Luke if we got to go with Luke. I think Lenore's gives us a better chance to win, that's for sure, but we'll see what
Yeah.
happens. So, on a side note, I hope Lenore's is okay, man. Praying for you if you're listening to this. And, the concussions can be weird things, man. So get better.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I have I'm a little bit more, pessimistic, if you will, about him playing this week. Just with concussions and the way things go, and naturally too needing to practice in this program. Shane doesn't really discount guys who doesn't really give guys a break who aren't at practice, and rightfully so. And a lot of coaches are like that. If you're not out at practice, why should he give you an extension to play? And then you got to let up the foot off the gas pedal on that policy for everybody and their mother. So I certainly get the optimism that everyone has that he's got to play. I'm just not going to rule it out with the severity of a concussion. Do you guys think that there is a week off for Lenore's? Do you think that they can still get the win if Doty's going the whole game? And then also too, do you guys think that if Doty starts to struggle, do you think there needs to be a change if you can't get any offense going in the first half?
You guys are betting guys or Vegas guys. You notice that as soon as that Lenore's was on protocol, that line jumped about 7 points, 6.5, 7 points, which is probably accurate. He's probably worth at least a touchdown.
Yeah.
I don't feel great us winning the ball game on the road at night in Columbia, Missouri with Luke Doty. I don't think that. I'm not saying we can't, but you feel much, much better with 16 out there running your offense. Now, with that being said, I didn't feel good about going to Oklahoma last year.
Mm-hmm.
And our defense came out and said, watch this, right? So I'm not saying that we're going to lose this game. I think that we actually have a chance in this game with or without 16. But if 16 is out there, I think this is going to be a real good game. To be honest, we always play Missouri close, no matter what. So,
Yeah, as retweeter said, man, the Carolina thing to do would be to lose by 24 points to Vandy, then turn around and go to Como and beat Missouri with a backup quarterback. That's just the Gamecock way. I can't explain it. It's always been the Gamecock way, Shane Beamer team or not, but we just do unquestionable things. But yeah, man, I think obviously 16 gives you a better chance to win the game. Even though he's had a lackluster start, he's still one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and he can extend plays. But I definitely think that Luke is serviceable enough, to win a game. He can hit the throws as he showed against Vandy. I mean, if the line will give him time and a somewhat clean pocket, he can deliver the football. And hopefully we can get the run game going as well to supplement that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Luke, showed that he's capable of doing it on the ground too. A little shake, a little shimmy there on that first down carry. So yeah, capable. And, I think the emergency package that we all kind of saw coming, I guess, with Doty and is a little bit more applicable now, or if you will, like it applies more, right? I think he's more capable of doing the job, I guess, than the other two guys. And, at this point, and I think a lot of it stems from practice too, as Shane has been talking about. Just, I guess Luke has been having more success in practice and whatnot. And I think, you throw the elder statesman out there. Like, I don't think you need to rush Air or Cutter out there when neither of them are ready yet. And then, if you set a bad foundation for them, you don't know what their future is going to look like either. So, yeah, a lot of questions, obviously, on the offensive side of the ball that need to be answered. Faison looked good. Oscar Attaway, I would expect to get more carries this week as they would focus on running the football a little bit more. But offensively, there's a lot more to talk about than this defense, guys. How, like, in your eyes, going up against such a tricky offense like Vandy, how did this defense play to you guys?
I think they played okay. Definitely a lot more energy in the first half.
Yeah.
But I will say one thing that I was disappointed with was the tackling. This is one of our worst tackling games we've had in a while. I mean, guys were in position, but there's a lot of times, whether it was Miles Norwood or DQ Smith, just they were in position, but they didn't break down and make the tackle. And that was the most frustrating thing. We had plenty of opportunities to get off the field on third down and even on fourth down, man. But yeah, like I said, losing 16, it affected both sides of the ball, and you could definitely tell some of the energy left the stadium. But yeah, definitely got to get the tackling cleaned up. And if we want a chance against Missouri, we have to be able to tackle because that team is explosive play city. You know, they're quick to bust one down the field. So if we want to keep it a close game and have a chance to win, we definitely have to tackle better against Missouri.
Yeah, I think I don't think our defense looked terrible. They didn't look great, but also we got to keep in mind Diego Pavia plays backyard football.
Yeah.
I mean, there was an option play that wasn't even close to an option. There was a play where Sessi knocked the ball out and just happened to take a Vanderbilt bounce out of bounds, right? Um, you know, real quick, shout out Peyton Williams, 7 solo tackles.
Yep.
Jalen Kilgore, 6. DQ, 6. Nick Barrett looked good up the middle. Justin O with an interception. There's some talent on this defense, man. I don't know, maybe we're not gelled yet. There's so many new guys, so many guys that were on the team last year that maybe didn't get a lot of run, some transfers. So I don't know. I 100% agree with Morgan. We got to tackle better. We got to contain better. We got to get off the field on third down. And we need to clean up the discipline. I think 85 yards, eight penalties, 85 yards, something like that from what I remember looking at. Is not that can't happen, man. Offense, defense, etc. It just can't happen.
And bouncing off of Brad, if you don't mind, real quick,
Go for it.
I think this is where you see that this defense potentially has more talent, more speed, and athleticism. But in games like this is where you miss that veteran depth. You know, like the leaders on the defense. You know, that can rally the guys back. Like, hey, we're still in this thing. And I did at times see some loafing from a couple of different players. You know, which I know you're going to get tired when you play a whole game, but I think this is where we're really starting to miss that veteran presence, like a Debo or a Demetrius Knight in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess to piggyback off that, Mobile, I think this is where like you start to develop some of that veteranship, right? Like you're gonna have guys out of this game that are pissed off that it happened that way, right? Like the loafing and all that. Like this defense has shown that they're more than capable of being an elite defense in weeks 1 and 2. Like everything that I saw against Vanderbilt, is stuff that they can fix, right? Like being more disciplined in tackling just takes effort, right? The loafing takes more effort, right? And then you look at the penalties too. Like the game just got away from them. Like we saw the frustration from Dylan Stewart. Like this defense was a lot better than they played on Saturday night. And obviously the penalties adding up, goes to show that. And obviously you don't want to have as many penalties as you did, and you want the discipline to be there. But sometimes it gets away from you. And, I think this defense is going to take their lumps, but there's a lot of good things, I guess, going on rolling or better things to take from this game. If you're this defense going into Como this weekend.
Real quick, just to piggyback that real quick on the
Yeah.
loafing, shout out Joseph Griffin puts out a lot of that good film tape out there that day or two later.
Right.
The concerning thing on the loafing was it was the biggest one I saw was on play 2 of the game. The second play of the entire game, and we got 3 guys out there, jogging. That needs to get cleaned up. It reminded me of Florida State and Alabama, or Alabama against Florida State. Just the lack of discipline, no speed. Just I don't know. This is just Vanderbilt. We're just going to trot out here to the sideline, and we'll be okay. But
yeah.
So.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I can see those guys I don't know if they came in this week flat, especially after all the talk like that, but certainly going to need a lot of faith regained. So flipping the script a little bit, guys, like South Carolina lost a good bit of hype this weekend, especially Lenore's. Obviously you saw his Heisman odds pretty much disappear with the concussion and everything, but I guess flipping the script, you guys have been pretty optimistic tonight anyways. Obviously Mr. Retweeter mentioned it. If we film this thing on Sunday, we'd all be pretty negative. But I guess how does this team regain the faith in Como? Like, do they have to win? Does it have to be pretty? Or do you guys still like, is the faith still there? Like, is one bad week gonna, I guess reroute the ship?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to say they have to win, but then again, I kind of feel like you do. As I alluded to earlier, this was the easier half of the schedule, and to lose 2 of the 5, through the first 5 would definitely make the rest of the year look a little less, not as good is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, I think they definitely have to just play a much closer game and just get off to a fast start, and hopefully score more than 17 points, more than 7 points, and just show some life, man. And hopefully we can just keep it together until we can get 16 back if he doesn't come back this week.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at it in regards to any sort of potential this season, this is a must win.
Right.
Now, if you look at it from the way you kind of structured that as far as confidence, I'm not sure you have to win, but you got to show up, you got to compete, you got to be in there, at the end of the game, that sort of thing. As Mobo alluded to, man, we come back home to Kentucky bye week and on the road to LSU, right?
Yeah.
You go to LSU 3-2 when you thought you were going to go 5-0. When you leave LSU potentially 3-3, that team's looking pretty darn good, especially the defense and our offense, right? So I don't know. It's a must win if you want to try to salvage something out of this season. And what I mean by that is some sort of playoff,
Right.
flirting with a good bowl, etc. We just need to keep in mind, gentlemen, that we also have to go to A&M. We also have to go to Ole Miss. So
Yeah.
we got 4 looming large away games that just, to me, they stare at 6-6, 7-5. The way we look Saturday, and make sure
Yeah.
that's clear. Now, again, Shane Beamer teams have proven through the years they get better as the year goes on.
Right.
I'm not ready to say we're a 7-5 football team. The rest of the world is, but
Yeah.
but you lose this weekend, you leave LSU 3-3. Things only get tough. Now, here's some good news. The last 2 games of the season look okay because Clemson looks like dog doo-doo right now. So,
Right.
so maybe you go in there and guarantee the Coastal and Clemson. But so, yeah, must win if we want to do something with the year, but not a must win if you're just trying to boost some confidence, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was going to say, does Clemson losing, does that have any effect on how you if South Carolina goes 7-5 and Clemson goes 6-6, is that a success for South? If South Carolina misses the playoffs and Clemson has a worse year, is that still technically viewed as a success?
No, in my opinion. However, Vegas had us at 7.5 wins.
True.
Right. I think Beamer's gone past that win total, except for maybe, what was it, 22? I forgot exactly what year it was. He didn't get there. So I don't really care what they do up there, man. Obviously I don't want them winning championships and that sort of thing. But if they go 5-7 and we go 6-6, I'm not going to be out there gloating about it and haha, look at you, because look what we did. So, but I guess it helps ease the pain a little bit on the timeline and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it definitely it doesn't make it acceptable or a success, but it definitely makes it easier when you don't have to listen to the fans from the upstate talking trash. So that would be one way, if all else fails and we were to miss the playoffs and accomplish nothing else, if we could get a win over them, that would salvage a little something.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I get it. I'll get to it and sprint to the finish once you guys hop off. But I mean, Clemson wore purple jerseys for the first time since they won the national championship in 2016. I don't know what they saw in the first 2-3 weeks of the season that garnered that this team was deemed special. But I don't know. That's when you start doing stuff like that. That's as soon as things go downhill off the rails. That's how you get beat in a tough road game at Georgia Tech. Like they did. Guys, before I get you guys out of here, obviously we'll get to plugging and stuff like that, but what is one thing that you guys want to see at Missouri in this game that will kind of, I guess, flip the script on some other things that they did against Vanderbilt, or i.e. an area of the game or position group that has been struggling as of late that could use the boost?
I want to see us establish a consistent run game. With the possibility of not having Lenoris, I just want to be able to see us consistently run the ball over and over again, and just not stall out drives. Not as many 3 and outs. I hope we can just sustain some drives and keep pushing the ball down the field. But I would say that's my main thing: just be able to sustain drives and finally establish a run game. Find the perfect mix between Rasul and Oscar, and just let those guys be a 1-2 punch.
Yeah, extremely similar answer. I want to see some life on offense. If it's with 16, I want to see us clicking a little bit more and looking pretty good on some plays. It doesn't mean you've hit everything. It doesn't mean that you score 40 points, but just look like an offense. If 16 is not in there, I'm gonna be honest, man. I want to see some players get in that we haven't seen. I want to see some guys get some run, and just try some different wrinkles out. You can't tell me they spend all week at practice and we're not doing some wrinkles, and all of a sudden Luke Doty runs out and Aaron Nolan's behind center and nobody notices, and this, that, and the other. I don't know. I just felt like the second half was very, oh, we got Luke Doty. Let's just run this play that we know he can do,
Right.
that sort of thing. So if it's 16, I want to see us look like an offense. If it's Doty, I like to see us wrinkle in some stuff, mix in some players, that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Appreciate you guys joining me again for this week's I guess Pulse of the Fan Base. As always, plug the socials, let the people know where you guys are at.
I'm just on Twitter, Mobo1080 on Twitter. That's pretty much it for me. But yeah, Joe, I appreciate it once again. Felt like it was a great episode, and I look forward to doing it again next weekend.
Yeah, Joe, appreciate you, man. This has been a cool 2 weeks. I look forward to next week. Hopefully, a little bit better conversation. We'll see. But at Brad Sales 312, Gamecock retweeter. I just spend my life retweeting Gamecock stuff and pouring my heart into the garnet and black. So we appreciate you, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you guys again. The fan panel, coming in clutch. You guys are, again, as I mentioned, two of the, I guess fans that shot it straight to me. While I've been in media and everything. So pumped to get you guys involved this year. Appreciate you guys joining me on this Tuesday evening. Again, that's Gamecock retweeter and Mr. Morgan Mobo. Again, those guys have their finger on the pulse of the fan base. Again, pumped to have them on my fan panel as we hit the sprint to the finish. Covering topics, I guess, from around sports. Talked about Clemson. Not good in Atlanta for Clemson. They're upset and did not have a good week against Georgia Tech. Dabo says, if Clemson's tired of winning, send me on my way. Not good things in up there in Clemson. Dabo, oddly enough, sounded similar to Shane in a way. I watched both of their pressers today, and they both, were bringing up, I guess, stuff that, the fan base was kind of tired about, like the frustrations, if you will. And, what does that mean? I don't know. These coaches get on Twitter. They see things, right? So you can't really blame them for being too chronically online unless it really becomes a recurring issue. But again, both these guys certainly frustrated with the way that their team is playing and also, can hear the frustrations of this fan base for sure. Yeah, most definitely. So Clemson, again, losing. Notre Dame falling at home to Texas A&M. Pete Sampson tweeted out that, C.J. Carr was tipping his plays. Oddly enough, with his feet, 51 out of the 52 plays, I believe, was a stat that Pete mentioned. So not good, but the development of the young quarterback in South Bend continues on as they roll on, and their playoff hopes, I guess, still remain alive. If they lose one more, they're out of it. But again, after a national championship run under Marcus Freeman, you can't expect a whole lot or much of the same, although I know much of that fan base is. And let's see, kind of closing things out. Paige Beckers, I think, won Rookie of the Year, if I'm not mistaken. Huge news for Paige. Tremendous ball player. We kind of expected that with all the hype kind of going into this year, although South Carolina had a batch of talented rookies going into the WNBA as well. So, really good for Paige. But again, as the WNBA heads into the playoffs, Indiana Fever taking on the Dream right now live on ESPN. If you want to go catch some South Carolina alums playing in the W, go check that out. But yeah, that was this week's sprint to the finish. Again, updating college football and most of the national news going on. One more thing, the tush push. Still getting chatter for still being in the game. What the heck? I don't understand it. If you're going to make a ruling on it, keep it and shut the heck up. So I don't know. This whole tush push talk doesn't make any sense. But anyways, that'll do it for this week's episode of The Walkthrough, presented by Tilly's Warehouse. Go check them out. 2000B Green Street, located in the heart of 5 Points. Once again, appreciate everyone joining me for this week's episode, and we will see you next week.